Please be aware, in this podcast series we talk about all areas of safeguarding, which some people may find upsetting. So please make sure you're okay listening to today's topic. Be mindful of those around you, such as children, that you might not want to listen in. Hi, I'm SSS Safeguarding Director Sam Preston.
And I'm former head teacher and content author Sara Spinks.
Today we're discussing a topic where views are divided. Should child murderers be named? The recent guilty verdicts in the trial of two 12-year-olds for the murder in Wolverhampton, this case highlights significant questions about youth crime, anonymity and justice. So, Sarah, I think maybe if we start, if you could maybe just give us some background on this case.
Yes, Sam. Yeah, the two boys, aged just 12, have been found guilty of murdering a man with a 16-inch machete in Wolverhampton. And this brutal attack has positioned them amongst the youngest convicted murderers in UK history. Sean, who was murdered originally from Anguilla, which is an overseas British territory in the Caribbean, had come to the UK for eye treatment and was living in Handsworth, Birmingham. And his parents have described him as a very loving child and are absolutely devastated by his loss.
Yeah, and this case particularly, it's reminiscent of the infamous 1993 case of Robert Thompson and John Venables, who were convicted of killing 2-year-old James Bulger. That case where, although they were children, the boys were tried in adult court and post-conviction saw the removal of their anonymity. So it might be useful for listeners just to explain how anonymity works in cases involving young people.
Yeah, sure, Sam. So in England and Wales, judges often use their powers under the Youth, Justice and Criminal Evidence Act, or sometimes the acronym YJCEA, to protect the identities of under 18s tried in adult courts until they reach adulthood. However, in exceptional cases like the Bulger case, these orders can be lifted after the trial, usually following a media application.
Yeah. So the Act mandates that the public interest in naming a child defendant must be weighed against their welfare. And that's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Because on one side, we have people like Kim Darby from the James Bulger Foundation, who believes that the names of children, convicted of murder should be made public. On the other view, experts like Dr. Cathy Hampson actually argues that naming these young offenders links them permanently with their crimes, which can really affect their rehabilitation and skew media coverage as well as give their families a life sentence of scrutiny, even though they haven't committed any crimes themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. The judicial guidance suggests that before and during the trial, the welfare of the defendant is paramount. But after conviction, the age of the offender and the seriousness of the crime becomes crucial factors in deciding whether to publish their identity. This balance, often shifts towards publication post-conviction, but not always decisively.
Yeah, this principle's been evident in other high-profile cases, isn't it? Like those of Brianna Guy.
Yeah, Brianna Guy,
killers, and William Cornick, who killed his teacher, Anne Maguire. In these cases, the judges highlighted the public interest in full reporting and the potential deterrent effect of naming offenders.
Yeah, exactly. However, there is also a duty to prevent reoffending. For instance, in 2015, Mr. Justice Sanders chose not to name a 14-year-old convicted of a terrorist offence, arguing that it might glorify the individual and encourage similar acts.
Yeah. And social media, of course, that complicates these anonymity decisions further. I mean, we're in a very different place now than we were, 10 years ago. So the identities of Brianna's killers, for example, they were unlawfully shared online. However, even so, the judge maintained the reporting restrictions.
Yeah, and the Wolverhampton community, in the case of Sean's murder, is understandably alarmed by this current case. The fact that such young children carried out this murder highlights a broader issue of raising knife-related crimes amongst youths. Statistics show an 8% increase in knife crimes in the West Midlands from 2022 to 2023.
Yeah, I mean, local mentors and youth organisations, they stress the importance of providing safe spaces and positive activities for young people to deter them from violence. The influence of social media and the accessibility of weapons, they're significant factors in this disturbing trend we're seeing. So maybe let's focus now on that sort of broader perspective of knife crime.
Yeah, well, knife crime has seen a worrying rise across England and Wales. Knife-related offences increased by 85% between 2012 and 2019, reaching a peak just before the pandemic. There were around 50,000 knife-related crimes in the year March to 2023, showing a 7% decrease from the pre-pandemic peak, but still significantly higher than a decade ago.
Yeah. And hospital admissions for knife injuries also reflect the severity of the problem. We've had a noticeable rise from sort of 2014-15 through to 18-19. Although there has been a decline in admissions since then, the levels remain concerning. Knife-related homicides, while seeing a 13% decrease from the peak, I think in 2017, I think it was.
Yeah.
It still represents a significant portion of violent crime.
Yeah, the increase in knife crime is often linked to the competitive and violent nature of the illicit drugs market, especially with the rise of county line operations. Cocaine use among 16 to 24-year-olds increased by 90% between 2012 and 2019, mirroring the rise of knife crime. While such habits have long been associated with teenagers who are part of gangs or exploited to carry drugs by county lines networks, there is a growing number of children with no link to criminality who are now believed to be carrying knives simply because they are afraid. The Ben Kinsella Trust, they surveyed almost 10,000 young people who attended their London workshops, and they found that a quarter thought arming themselves with a blade would protect them. More than a third said that they did not feel safe walking the streets. 2/3 were anxious about knife crime in their area, and children under the age of 12 were even more likely to be scared than their older peers. It's a really worrying trend of this arming to self-protect.
Gosh, I mean, it's a really alarming set of statistics there, isn't it? And really a truly sad indictment of how young people are feeling about their safety. So we need to look at what measures have been put in place, I think, to combat knife crime. I mean, these have included legal initiative like the Offensive Weapons Act and the establishment of the violence reduction units. However, the easy availability of knives, particularly online, continues to be a major issue.
Absolutely. The murder of Rohan Kanda in 2022 involving another youth and a large knife highlights the deadly allure of these weapons as sort of status symbols. Ronan's sister, Nikita Kanda, is advocating for a ban on the online sale of bladed weapons to prevent such tragedies. I think there is quite a growing campaign out there, including some celebrities as well, to try and get that.
Well, one positive is the commitment of the new Labour government, who have committed to introducing a whole host of measures to combat knife crime, including further bans on particular weapons and stricter requirements on the sales of blades.
I think they've also highlighted the commitment towards preventative interventions, so it'd be interesting to see what that actually entails, won't it?
Yeah. So as Mrs Justice Tipples prepares to make her decisions regarding the minimum sentence in Wolverhampton, whether to name those defendants, the community, we're all watching closely. I mean, this case has sparked what I think is an essential debate on balancing public safety, justice, and the welfare of young offenders. In my opinion, there needs to be fuller exploration of the impact of naming young convicted offenders, including the potential impact this has on rehabilitation. It's a complex issue, but it's crucial that the conversation continues to find best ways to both address youth crime and support rehabilitation.